quickly tell you what the markets did in trade. And yes, there was a bout of brief rally for the last few days due to short covering, which lost quite a bit of steam yesterday, especially towards the last 1 hour. The intraday chart will show you the deep gash that came in the last 40 to 45 minutes of trade, which didn't augur too well. The market breadth, in fact, the advances decline and the declines went up higher, and therefore we end up with close to 2:5 in favor of the declines. So short covering definitely lost steam, and I think what added to the problems was the fact that the rupee weakened to near the record low, below the 56 mark once again, and stayed there for most part of the trading day today, so not good going. I think $110 demand by all companies or other factors which led to this happening for the rupee and had the consequent impact on the index as well. Sure enough, there were global factors which did play a part. Crude cooled off a little bit but didn't have too much of an impact. What did have an impact were some of the result boys, and the stock of the day, and we'll talk about it in greater detail. Tata Motors, almost 11.5% down, so not good going. There were, of course, a lot of stocks in news as well. SR Ports, for example, despite not the best of numbers, they sold 5% stake at 110, and that kind of kept the stock afloat. This was, of course, sold to Antwerp Port. The telecom pack is in focus because it's believed that the sources say that TRAI may lower the reserve price for the 2G spectrum. These stocks held out recently okay in trade, and look at what happened to some of these stocks, particularly Bharti Airtel and Idea. But Tata Motors remains the big talking point of the session. M&M and ONGC as well, but Tata Motors 11% off, so that one was the big gash. Lots of other stocks in focus, and we'll discuss them in greater detail. But let's get in our experts now to speak about what really happened in the markets today and how the market's likely to shape up. On the fundamental end, we have Amrish Paliga, and on the technical front, we have Sandeep Wagle. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining in. Amrish, looking at the factors around, with the rupee doing what it is doing, the global structure not too supportive, and June 15 being a crunch date as well, from a global perspective, so to say, you think there are higher chances of the market drifting lower?
Yeah, it's very much possible, because even the last time I was there on your channel, I was saying that possibly the upside is about 5,000, 5,050, and I mean, clearly it's from that region that we have seen this correction again starting off. So in case we again see rupee much beyond these levels, I mean, it's already close to that high, and in case we see levels of about 57, 58, which again people have been talking of, I suppose we should see the markets more towards 4,800 levels or below, and not towards 5,000.
Sandeep, what's your sense? What does the chart suggest? The Nifty and the more volatile cousin, the Bank Nifty.
Well, Neeraj, clearly 5,000, 5,050 has been a very strong resistance area. Reasons will always follow later, and this is what we saw. And the way we opened down, and more so we remained down, that was the sign of weakness. And I think every short-term rally or whatever up move that we witness in the Nifty, I don't see it beyond 30-40 points should be sold into. Now the question is whether we'll break the prior low of 47.60, 47.70 that we made. That as yet I am not clear, but I see at least another 80 to 100 point downside from the current levels in the Nifty. Talk of the Bank Nifty, I think we will see somewhere near 92, 89, 91, 50, 92 immediately, and then possibly 8900. That may take a little longer time.
While brokerages have probably maintained the target at 320, 330, maybe 300, you think that the performance this time shows some chinks in the armor of Tata Motors? Absolutely, and this is again what I've been saying for a while. Because again, these results are when the numbers, at least the monthly numbers, were good. And post-March, we have seen the numbers really starting to shrink, and expected that going ahead the next couple of months, the numbers could be weak. And especially if, with the margins also getting weaker, there is no way Tata Motors will remain at these levels. I mean, earlier, before the results came out, we were looking at levels of about 230, 240. Now, with this sort of a margin pressure, I mean, I'll not be surprised if we see levels of about 210, 215 quite soon. Does the chart suggest that, Sandeep? A word on Tata Motors, can it slide further? And of course, consequently, a word on M&M as well, because that was the other result boy.
Neeraj, Tata Motors does suggest some downside. In fact, we have advised our delivery clients to sell delivery around 270, 275, that range, which they have started buying back now. But somewhere around 225, 230, we are advising them to cover back if they have a long-term bullish view. 210, I am not very certain. Possibly in this market anything can happen, but 225, 230 looks visible, and that can come in the next day or two. M&M is looking positive. I won't be surprised if it goes to 680 or so. At a current level of 660, 662, I see a 15 to 20 rupees upside. Now, if the market has a good day on a given day, I think this is a stock to buy.
The other sector in focus was telecom, and while there is talk of the spectrum price being cut and lots of other talks surrounding the space as well, Bharti has done an individual action a couple of days back that helped the stock too. Amrish, I know you've been a contra buyer in some of the telecom stocks, and we discussed Bharti when it was at those 275, 280 kind of levels, 280 rather, not really 275. You did mention that it could be a good contra bet. The stocks are not at those lows. Arcom though is. What are you doing with telecom?
No, still holding on. I mean, whatever we have bought at those levels, we are holding on because at 280, even at the current 300 levels, I think most of the bad news as far as the sector is concerned is already priced in for Bharti. So that's one of the picks even now. I mean, as of now. In case we see slightly lower levels for Idea, I think that is one stock I would look at. Arcom, in fact, we are ignoring for the time being.
Sandeep, what are you doing with telecom?
Well, Neeraj, yesterday we had talked of Arcom breaking the low of somewhere around 60, 61, the prior low it made a few months back, and I maintain that. But at a level of 64, you just have 3, 4, 5 rupees down. So Arcom is clearly weak. That I am with Amrish. Bharti, I don't want to buy in this kind of a market scenario where I have a visibility of a downside Nifty 100 points. There, if some support comes in, I am willing to look at it. But I don't see any strength in the pattern of Bharti as well. Not to say that it is weak, and I won't be a seller as well. So I think Bharti would be a range bound in the range of 290, 292 on the downside, possibly 38, 310 on the upside. This is the range I'm looking at Bharti in the next few days or weeks.
Okay, Amrish, the other set of result boys which came out today, there was GAIL which came out with a really disappointing set of numbers. The stock, of course, is at a 52, near the 52-week low, so maybe not so much of an adverse reaction. But did you have a chance to look at them?
No, I didn't look at it in detail, but clearly, yes, we were disappointed. This is a case, across, most of the oil and gas sector, especially the oil marketing companies. Although the results have been decent, but then we don't expect, any sort of performance from these companies going ahead, at least if you're talking of the next 3 to 4 quarters. So right now it's ignored.
Okay, and the other bit, Amrish, again, a result boy was United Spirits, which did react at the start of the session to the numbers, the PAT of 10 crores versus 60 crores, so down 83%. And this was this was the stock that was really amongst the better ones in the UB group, because Kingfisher has been clearly dismantled. What did you make of the numbers, and what's the outlook on United Spirits?
See, clearly when you have fire all around, it is very difficult for United Spirits to really perform. And looking at the sort of a situation which we expect to continue at least for, foreseeable future, surely at these levels I'm not look at buying United Spirits, but once the clouds clear, I think this could be one stock to be looked at in that group.
Can it go down, Sandeep, United Spirits? And in fact, if you can also give a chart view on KFA, because that one was down majorly, 7 or 8% today, back to the 11 kind of levels. What's the view, United Spirits and KFA?
Well, United Spirits, till yesterday we were not that bearish, or in fact, let me put it that way, that we were bullish with the markets. I thought that it will go to somewhere around 675, 680, but I think that 663 is something where it faced a lot of resistance. And after seeing today's action, I think it will have some more downside to the tune of around 550, 560. So I would talk of a 7-8% downside in United Spirits. And for me, any level to the tune of 625, 630, I would be comfortable selling it or going short in it. KFA, how much down can it go is a difficult call. It will definitely go down at a level of 11. I see a level of around 8, 8.5 coming immediately, which could happen over the next week or so.
The GDP data estimated to come out, and the Q4 GDP is seen at 6.1% versus 7.8%. More importantly, on a quarter-on-quarter, on a sequential basis, we expect the GDP to remain flat. So 6.1% versus 6.1% in the December quarter. Mind you, the consensus ranges anywhere between 6.5 to 5.5%, so that you have to take into account. But Amrish, you think that there could be, a market impacting figure that could come out, something that might either disappoint the street majorly or probably excite the street by virtue of the number that is put out?
I mean, going by the way things have been, I don't know whether it'll really excite the street with those numbers. I think it'll either be closer to that 6.1 which we've been talking of, or I mean maybe slightly a tad bit lower. So I suppose it will be more towards disappointment than excitement.
But a lower number, Amrish, really, let's assume it comes at around 6.1 or 6% or 5.9%. You think the market will take it in its stride, or that would really be out of the ordinary?
No, I mean, as long as it's about 6.1, I suppose the market will take it in its stride. But psychologically, if it's below 6, I suppose it will be taken quite negatively.
The other important event tomorrow, which will, of course, govern trade towards the latter half, is the FNO expiry. And Sandeep, we spoke about the Bank Nifty. Let's talk about some individual components in banking, because from whatever positions the FIs seem to be taking on the Bank Nifty, there are a lot of short rolls that have already happened in the banking space, and the Bank Nifty in particular. So may not be too much of short covering that we will anyway see. And if your view is definitely that the Bank Nifty is going down, what about some individual components, the larger ones? Anything that has caught your eye?
Yes, Neeraj. ICICI was cruising quite well to 840, 845, where in fact we felt it could go to around 860 or so. The way it has panned out today, I would go short in ICICI. I would look at a target of around 785, 790. Among the smaller banks, UCO Bank is looking weak, set for a downside of 7 to 8%.
Amrish, technical factors notwithstanding, I mean globally what will happen and the pressure on the Bank Nifty notwithstanding, are you playing contra in the banking names, particularly what's probably in some of the PSU banking names which are available at 0.8, 0.7 times book? Or not the time right now?
Not the right time as of now. I mean, I would see some further correction because, like I've been saying, looking at the way the rupee is, don't expect any further cuts, at least in the near future. So, I mean, as long as there's no clear take on the rupee front, I mean, I'll surely not take a bet on banking right now. But yes, I mean, if you're talking of slightly longer term, if you're talking of the next 8-10 months, yes, I mean, we are I mean, quite bullish on banks. But something like an SBI, I suppose, will again see levels of about 1900, 1925. I think at those levels one should look at buying.
What about private banks, Amrish? Would you touch an ICICI or an HDFC Bank?
I'll not touch ICICI Bank, but surely Axis and HDFC is something which I'll look at.
Okay, the other set of stocks, and Sandeep, I want to come to you. We'll talk about Havells and a couple of them in greater detail later on in the show, but the large-sized cap good names, the likes of BHEL, L&T, L&T in particular has stayed steady at the kind of levels that it was when the numbers came out. Do the charts give any indication of which way the stock is likely to make or break?
Well, Neeraj, as of now, it is suggesting that it is not in a mood to fall. So it is not as weak as what I would term as. But have a look at the other stocks. Have a look at BHEL, which is in its category. The crackdown has already started. It is already down 3% plus and ready to go more. So I don't think in an onslaught where you have a Nifty cracking down 100 points in a day or two, and you never know it happens tomorrow. I really don't think L&T could be spared as well. I think that will also fall. But the fall in L&T would be lesser than the other cap good stocks is what I would say.
Some of these cracked, Amrish, and especially in today's trade, a BGR Energy, a Havells in particular, despite the fact, that the numbers weren't so bad, the reported numbers weren't as bad. But what's the view on the mid-sized cap good names?
Again, Havells, clearly the expectations were more, so because of which you saw that crack. But at the same time, if you're talking all these mid-cap names, surely this is the time to actually stay away from the mid-caps, because when you have the large caps available at such extremely good discounting, and even there we are saying it's possibly time to wait, there is no way you should be looking at the mid-caps. Let the markets improve. Surely, if you're talking of the next 4-6 months, the market should improve. And I think one should look at the mid-caps only when you see levels beyond 5,200, 5,300.
I don't think there are any large caps left in the infra space, Amrish. What do you do? The GMRs and the Lancos of the world have been reduced to mid-caps.
Absolutely.
And the numbers weren't that great either. What do you do?
GMR, I think at these levels, most of the negatives are already priced in, so I don't see too much of a downside, and it doesn't make sense selling off at 20 half. So I think one can hold on. Again, here I would say, although it's a fundamental pick, I would still keep a stop loss of possibly about 17 half, 18.
Okay, so that's the view really. And is there, Amrish, is there heart or is there bravado to go ahead and pick up a KFA? It's at 11 now. A lot of people played for the contra thing at 16, played for contra at 13. somehow there is no resurrection in sight for KFA.
It's double or quits. I mean, clearly, you could make 11, 12 bucks from here or lose 11.30. I think that's where it's quoting at. So if you are willing to lose that whole amount, yes, go ahead and buy.
So again, I don't think we can, really bifurcate between whether this is bravery or whether this is bravado. But Amrish is saying it's a punt that somebody can take. 11 rupees. So that is some market cap destruction that has happened into Kingfisher Airlines. So, okay, the other set of stocks. Sandeep, we spoke about the large cap good names. What about stocks like Havells and a BGR Energy? Because I remember a lot of sell calls came into Havells during the intraday trade today. Do you think it's likely to go down further?
Sorry, excuse me. Yes, Neeraj. I would not sell into Havells because it has already cracked some 10% or so. Whereas a BGR, the crack has already started. Of course, BGR is also down around 5.5–6%. I see BGR breaking the prior low of 275, and in which case there could be a free fall. 255 to 258 could be the next target. So for me, BGR is a clear sell.
Amrish, the set of numbers which probably disappointed and already beaten down stock was Renuka Sugars. Not the best of numbers. The stock sunk even further, 26 now. Is there a contra play here, Renuka or some of the other sugar names?
No, not yet, because we still see the sugar cycle down for a while longer. I suppose at least another 6-7 months before we really see that uptrend starting. So unless that is in sight, I'll not be buying into any of the sugar stocks.